Alrighty, so I thought I'd do one more video before I head out here. This one's going to be another story time about my 66. This tractor was actually my first tractor. Dad got it for me when I was 8 years old. So, 2001, right? I was born in 93, 4, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99. Okay, so 2000 was when he got that for me, and it came from a auction that's no longer happening, a Don King's antique and collector tractor auction down in Columbia City, Indiana. At the time, it was one of the largest antique tractor auctions in the country. It was 3 days, 3 rings, had it at the Whitley County Fairgrounds. And the year we got this, they actually had two 66s advertised, two 66 wide fronts advertised. They had this one, and they had another one that had a paint job on it. And this is what Dad wanted to get me, was a 66 wide front. So we went down there, and I want to say it was a Friday, so I think I got out. I think he took me out of school for it, if I remember correctly. But we went down there and started looking around, and we found the one that was painted, and it was alright. Had new tires all the way around it. Paint job was decent. But we looked and looked and looked and looked and could not find the other 66 wide front. And we had been through, because I think there was 10 or 11 livestock barns down there just crammed full of tractors, and some of them they were even double parked. And we went through all them barns one time, and we decided to go back and look through them all a second time. And then the second time around, we walked right in the door of one of the barns, and there was a Farmall, I can't remember if it was an H or an M, parked right. That was one of the barns where they were double parked, and they had an H or an M or something sitting right out in the doorway. And we noticed this little guy sitting behind that Farmall, and nobody's paid attention to it, because if you saw this thing, I mean, it had old nasty 45-degree firestones on it, that the sidewalls were falling apart, and the front wheels had the original 66 front wheels on it that were prone to breaking right here, and whoever welded them back together didn't do a really good job, and the wheels were all cattywampus, and obviously the paint on it's not that great. And we looked it over. I mean, if you look past the ugly, it was actually a really straight tractor. All the tin was with it. PTO shield was there. At that point, it didn't have the hydraulics on it. It just had the trip lift on it. But I mean, just because of the way it looked, everybody just walking right past it. And so Dad looked it over, and luckily this one was the second one to come through the ring, and the first one to go through was that 66 with the paint job on it. And it was kind of like my 19. It was one of them deals where they slapped a really pretty paint job on a really ugly tractor. It came in the ring, and there was a blue haze, and it was spitting and sputtering, and had a weird noise in the transmission, and yeah, like I say, it was a real nice paint job on a real ugly tractor. And Dad bid on that one. I think he quit at 21 21 or 2200, and I think it actually sold for 35 or 36 was what that one sold for. And someone got took on it because we actually saw the guy that bought it trying to load it up after the auction. He couldn't even get it to start. So thank God we didn't end up with that one. But then this one came through the ring, and they pulled it in. Transmission was quiet as a church mouse. It sat there punching away on all four, just idling nice as could be. The only thing is, when it was running, it had a really, really deep, low knock in the bottom end of the motor. But it was weird because it pegged the oil pressure gauge. There wasn't anything to make you think there was something wrong with the motor. And you could tell because you can tell if it's rod knock or valve knock or whatever just by listening to it and timing it. And you could tell by the way the engine was running that it was a rod knock. So, but it came in the ring, and there wasn't a whole lot of hype over it just because of the way it looked. But when it came down to it, as soon as this one came in the ring, Dad basically just stood up and put his hand up in the air and held it there. And it was just him and one other guy bidding on it, and he ended up getting it for $2,600. And the funny part was there was an old guy sitting right behind us. And after Dad got it and sat back down, the old guy leaned forward, put his hand on Dad's shoulder, and said, "Now, God damn it, boy, that's how you go to an auction right there." So that was kind of funny. But we brought it home, and at that point I was 8 years old. I had the attention span of a jackrabbit, so I didn't really help work on it too much at first, other than getting tools and stuff for Dad. But he tore into it, and he narrowed the tractor up. 'Cause it was set out, I can't remember what the tread width was, but it was spread way out. So he took the front axle apart, got it freed up so he could narrow the whole thing up for plowing, and pulled the bottom end of the motor apart to diagnose that rod knock. And he went through and pulled all the rod caps apart, and come to find out the engine had just been rebuilt, had all new bearings in it and stuff, and pistons and sleeves and everything in it were new. Well, so he was like, "Oh, okay, well, something was just out of adjustment." Well, when he was pulling the main caps off, he got to, I think it's the rear main cap, he pulled it off and a bunch of washers and crap fell out of it. Come to find out that rod cap was, the reason it was knocking was because that rod cap wasn't spaced right and the crank was loose, so the crank was slapping up and down in the main cap. Alright, so he took all that apart, put some plastic gauge on there, put a bottle jack on the crank to push it up into the motor, because if you're plastic gauging with the motor sitting right side up, you need to put upward force on the crank, otherwise just the weight of the crank will smash the plastic gauge and give you a false reading. So we jacked the crank up, put all the main caps back in with plastic gauge, torqued them up, pulled them all back apart, and on that rear main cap it had smashed the plastic gauge so far you couldn't even see it anymore. Come to find out, apparently at the factory, that block didn't, or the rear main cap must not have been torqued right or something, or not put on right. And the rear main on this thing was line bored wrong. So in order to get the right crush on the plastic gauge, at that point Dad was still working in a machine shop, so we figured out what he needed for spacers. Went over to where he worked on their surface grinder and milled some custom washers to put in that main cap. Put it back together, plastic gauge, or the whole thing plastic gauge right. Knock went away, and she's run good ever since. And for the longest time, that was before I started farming. All we really do is the plow days and tractor shows. I'd hate to think how many hours I just put on it just driving around the yard when I was little. It was probably a lot. But in 2008, I think it was, whenever the National Oliver Show was down in Lafayette, Indiana, we took it down there, because that was the year they were featuring the Super 77. So yeah, it had to have been 08. But anyway, we took it this and the Hart Par down to that show in Lafayette, and they had a dyno down there. And this tractor, there are actually quite a few 66s around here. The neighbors got one. There's a guy or two guys in Buchanan that got, between the two of them, I think they got 3. There's a few more of them floating around, but there's a plow day we used to go to over in Buchanan every year, and there was usually at least three, if not 4, 66s over there, and we could never figure out, because we were all pulling the same plow. Everybody over there pulled the Model 100 214. And I could always walk the dog in front of them. And we could never figure out why. And even, because one guy's got his 66 kind of built up. It's built up for pulling, but it's not running so hot that he can't farm with it, because he still uses it for making hay and stuff. But he, even he said, what did you guys do to that motor? Because that little tractor's hot. And we were like, just brought it home, changed the oil in it basically, and put it to work. Well, we had it down there at the show in Lafayette, and they had the dyno, and I put it on it, and it was kind of funny, because before I got in a dyno, there had been an Oliver 1950 and an Alice 190 XT and a couple big diesel straight pipes making a lot of noise. A bunch of guys around the dyno, and the next thing you know, I pull up, and guys just kind of look at it, oh, it's just a little 66, this ain't going to be too exciting. So they start walking away, and I get hooked up to the dyno, and he runs me up and goes through the warm-up procedure, and then at that point, it wasn't even straight pipe yet, we still had the muffler on it, and he starts pulling me down, and pulling me down, and pulling me down, and he looks at the dial, and he looks back up at the tractor, and he pulls me down a little bit more, and he looks at the dial, and he looks back up at the tractor, and he pulls me down a little bit more, and next thing you know, all the guys that had walked away from watching them big tractors are all coming back, and everybody's crowding back around the dyno. Coming to find out, that little sumbitch is 36 horse compared to 21 out of the factory. So the only thing we could figure is it's got Super 66 or either Super 66 or 660 pistons and sleeves in it. So that explains why she's so strong, and that it is a running little sumbitch. For a 35 horse, and a 30, I think it's actually a 35 3/4 or something, 30 somewhere in there. But that actually makes it more horsepower than a 77, because a 77 was only 32, I think. Now, you also got to remember that's 36 horse coming out of a 4-cylinder motor, so while it has 36 horse, it doesn't get nearly the amount of torque that a 77 will put out of a 6-cylinder motor. So that tractor will still outpull this one, just by sheer lugging ability, but this old girl will hold her own. And we've won a lot of tractor pulls with it, although here lately the antique classes are getting about like the 12 and 15,000 pound classes. If you ain't got, 4 or 5 grand dropped in your motor, you're not going to do a whole lot. So I basically quit pulling with it, because just being a stock tractor, I can't really be competitive anymore. But there in the early 2000s, before everybody started throwing money at it, it was a real competitive little pulling tractor. And obviously, since we've got it, I put hydraulics on it. I actually got one hell of a deal on there. I put an ad on YT Mag, and there was a guy on there that had bought a 66. It was just a rolling chassis, didn't have anything from the frame up, and about the only thing it had on it worth anything was the hydraulic unit. And he gave that to me for I think I only give $300 for it. And got that, and I rebuilt it, and we put that on there. Other than that, really haven't done anything to it besides paint the rims. And the only reason the rims got painted was because they were real crusty, and we didn't want to mount new tires on them rims with the shape they were in. It's got new headlights on it because when we got it, it didn't have Oliver headlights. It just had regular automotive field beam lights on it, so we got rid of those, put factory lights on it. It didn't have a bullet light, so I put a bullet light on it. Seat's been rebuilt. We put the straight pipe on it. When we got it, it had the typical Oliver-ism, because these things have an offset muffler in them. And when those mufflers went bad, guys, instead of spending the money to buy the right one to get the exhaust stack back out the hood where it belongs, they just whack a big old hole in here so they could fit a straight over the hood muffler on it. So when we put the straight pipe on, we got a hood off of a 77 that had a whole big hole cut in it. We used that for parts. We whacked chunks out of it to patch hoods so we can get the curve right. But this whole piece right here is new out of that hood, and the hole in it's actually oversized to fit the oversized straight pipe, but it's on location, so it's where it belongs in the hood. What else? Really, that's all we've done to the old girl. The only other thing is, and this must have been a common problem on the 66s because this isn't the only one we've seen, but right here behind the carburetor, the block has a hairline crack in it, and it's just in the water jacket. Everything else is fine. So went in there and took a die grinder and gouged it out, and then put some just JB weld in there. Since it was water jacket, weren't too worried about it. At least I'm pretty sure that's what it was, or maybe it was epoxy. Might have been epoxy. But either way, put that on there, ground it off flat, shot primer on it, and hasn't leaked since. And it didn't even really leak when we got it. The only reason we noticed it was apparently whoever rebuilt the motor knew about it, and they had gobbed like a 1/4 inch of paint on there, and then threw like hay chaff on it to cover it up to make it look like it was just a greasy motor. And I think it was when Dad was rebuilding the car, he pulled that off and he scratched the motor by accident, and a bunch of the paint came off, and he got it all off and realized there was a small crack in the block. But it's no big deal. And as many hours as I've put on it, I am at some point going to have to pull the motor down and probably put new bearings in it again, because it still holds full oil pressure at a wide open, but it comes back down a little bit when you're letting it idle, and oil pressure is getting a little slow to come up. But I have put a lot of hours on that motor, and I have worked the dog shit out of this poor little tractor. So when I first started farming, this was all I had. So I plowed with it. I had a 10-foot 241 disc I pulled with it, which she didn't like, but she did it. And I planted with it. I pulled a 2-section drag with it. So she's probably earned a tear down, and it shouldn't be too bad. And I don't know if I have to put pistons and sleeves in it, but it probably bearings, and it needs a front and rear main seal. Just small stuff. And one of these days I'll slap a paint job on it, but I just have a hard time painting work tractors because you can easily drop $4 in a paint job, and then what good is it? You can't take it out and use it, because if you scratch it, that's $4 down the hole. So I'd almost rather just leave it like this, and it's like a sleeper. Nobody wants to look at it till it starts doing its thing, and then everybody looks at it. But I guess that's the story of the 66, and I'm probably going to do more of these this winter since there's not going to be a whole lot else going on. So I know C&J Farms wanted one of the 60s, so I'll get one of them in. And there's a few guys asked about the grain truck, so I'll probably get one of them in, and we'll see how things go. But I guess that does it for this one, and we will probably catch you guys next weekend, weather permitting, when I come home and work on fence rows. So we will catch y'all on the next one.